water lilies, lotuses. One, to honor the space we're now in. One, to honor the storytellers that stand beside me and behind me in history, including my grandfather and my father. And one, to honor all of you, because without you, the stories cannot be told and cannot be passed on. So welcome. Aibo One in Sri Lanka, where I was born, means hi, hello, welcome. How are you? Have a good day. Live long, live well, live happily ever after. All that in one word. And we put our hands together. You don't have to do that. But when we say this word, we have the biggest smile. Can I see big smiles? Oh, lovely in the front here. Oh, even better down there. Okay, shall we try the word? Aibo One. Thank you. So my name is Debbie, and I was born in Sri Lanka. Now my father, he was a storyteller, but he was a bit like David Attenborough. What he loved were marine life and snakes. He would take snakes and he would wrap them round his neck like a scarf. My mother, she would bake cakes that were like houses, and they would grow as we did. And my dream is to have a cake house as big as the museum to run through. How many of you might like that? I see the young ones with hope. Okay, so in Sri Lanka, we do celebrate Diwali. And I have Hindu family, and the best part of Diwali for me is the lights. How many of you like lighting Diva lights? Yes? And for the ones who have not seen them, this is a bronze one. In Sri Lanka, we have clay ones, which we call temporary, and bronze, which we call everlasting. How many of you would like everlasting happiness? Good to know. Okay, so when I walked through the museum, walked through this room, the object that caught my attention, they're very tiny. They're tucked in in this alcove here. Or is it that? Sorry, this one, isn't it? The first one. And they're three little figures of Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana. In Sri Lanka, we pronounce the A. Now, the Ramayana, have any of you heard of that story? Yes? Well, the ones who've heard of it, and for the ones who haven't, it is an epic story. It can take up to 3 days to tell it. But I only have half an hour, so don't worry. And the stories that were told all over Southeast Asia, they have the same beginning, middle, but not necessarily the end. In Sri Lanka, it was discovered 20,000 years ago, Ravana had his kingdom. Now, to us in Sri Lanka, Ravana is not a 10-headed demon. Oh no, he was a great king. His 10 heads were supposed to be a head for medicine, a head for architecture, a head for science, and the list goes on. Of course, he loved beautiful things, and he was a very wise man. He settled his capital city way up high in a place called Nura Elia. And Nura Elia has beautiful flowers, plants, waterfalls. He built his palace so that it looked like it was floating in the clouds. Now, I have a thing. I like to be somewhere high. How many of you would like your house floating in the clouds? Yeah, okay. And I've just seen something which has reminded me. In Sri Lanka, after you say hello and Aibawan, you're given water. And the moment you drink it, it says, "Thank you for inviting me here." And let's move on to the story. Well, are we ready? Yes? In a time when Lanka was Ravana's kingdom, in a time when he ruled wisely and well, in a time when his palace was steered up and up into the clouds. It was made of white marble. The windows had ivory. The doors were encrusted with gems. The floor was polished. It had carpets, and on those carpets they scattered red and white blossoms. Ramana loved jewels, and he wore them on his body as he sat on his ivory and gold throne. But you know what? He was a good king, and so people in all his lands would give him gifts and dues of money. They say all except one city, one large town, and this town, he couldn't understand it. Everyone else was glad he was king. So one day he clicked his fingers and he said to his collector, "Go and find out what the problem is." Well, the collector bowed, "Of course, Highness." And he set off across Lanka. He crossed the sea all the way into India. And there he traveled the land until he came to that city. And it was a city full of holy men. And they looked at the collector and they said, "We have nothing. We have ourselves, our prayers, our lives. All the people around us come and bring us food, give us clothing. We have nothing but ourselves." Well, the tax collector, or the collector, maybe not just of taxes, he said, "I don't care. The king does not care. Tomorrow morning, fill this." And he bought a big pot. They looked at the size of the pot. It was half the size of me, and they didn't know what to do. "At sunrise tomorrow," he said, "I will be back." And he left. Well, the holy men looked at each other. They wondered what to do. When the eldest, he said, "If all we have is ourselves, let us give him something of us." And he took out a very sharp knife that glinted. He held his hand over the pot, and it dripped into it. And one by one, the men took that knife, cut, drip, until the pot was full. And you know what it was full of, don't you? So they covered it, they tied it, they covered it again. And the next morning, when the collector came, there was the pot. It was covered, it was sealed. He said, "I see that you have been sensible." And he carried that pot, but by now it was really heavy. And he tried to walk across the land, and as he did, it got heavier and heavier and heavier. And by the time he reached the sea, he was bent double, but he got it onto a boat. It went across, he came to Lanka, he carried it all the way up until he came to that throne room. The throne room with crystal pillars garlanded with flowers and leaves. That throne room which was studded with diamonds on the walls so it glittered and shone. That throne room where Ravana sat. "Ah, collector, you're back. And the collector, he staggered with the pot. He put it in front of Ravana and he bowed. Highness, here it is. Doesn't look much, but Ravana raised himself. He was tall, he was majestic, and he was about to touch the cover when the wise men all rushed forward and said, "No, no, Highness, that pot is your doom." Well, Ravana moved back because he felt a tremor go down his body. His heart beat strangely. He looked at the pot and he said to the collector, "Take it away, take it away, take it back to where it came from." Well, the collector wasn't happy. It was heavy enough one way, so he picked it up and he carried it all the way down to the sea, all the way across the land of India, and he was trying to get back, but he was tired. It was heavy. He was far enough away from Lanka, and so he thought, I know. He dug a hole. He put the pot into it. He covered it, and he went back. All sorted, Your Highness. But that pot, it did something very strange to the land. The grass, the flowers, all the plants started to die. Rain didn't fall. And it was Janaka's kingdom, and he said to his wise men, "What is going on?" And they said, "Highness, there is something in this land that does not belong here. You will have to find it. And how you will have to find it is to take all the gold you own, make it into a plow." Do you know plows? They go across the land, yeah? "And you will have to push that plow across your land until you find it." So Janaka took all his gold, made a plow, and bare-bodied, barefoot, he pushed and pushed, day after day, week after week, month after month, until clump. He moved the soil, and there he saw a pot. He took out the pot, and slowly he undid that cloth and string until the cover came off. When he looked inside, there was a baby girl. And he picked up the baby, who looked at him. He smiled at her. "You, I am going to call Sita, and you will be my daughter." As the baby smiled at him and he smiled at the baby, their hearts began to beat. And they say it beat strong and it beat loud. And what it beat across all the lands was these words: "I am Ravana's doom. I am Ravana's doom. I am Ravana's doom." Thank you. So that was a story from the Ramayana. And what we'd like to do now is, one of the other things that I love about Diwali is that we get to wear new clothes. How many of you enjoy wearing new clothes? Yeah, adults? Do any of you like wearing new clothes? Yes? So I'm going to tell you the story of the first sari. And we know it's at least 3,000 years old because in the Indus Valley, they found a little clay figure and she was wearing a sari, and it has been dated to around 3,000 years ago. But I think if you walk through the gallery, you might find other objects that wear the sari. So I have someone who's going to be a model. Are you going to cut this off? Because I'm going to be in front of the speakers, I have to have the microphone off. I just need to check that the people at the back can hear me louder. I could try it on the stage. Yeah, try it on the stage, Caroline. So if you could just stand here, please, Caroline, and try not to fall. Come nearer. That's it. Okay. So I might ask Lata to just show us how long. I wanted to show people how long the sari is. So if we start there. So a sari is this long, and we're supposed to wear it without buttons or belts or bows or anything like that. So, thanks, Lata. Can you hear me again? It's very long. It's 6 yards, and the idea is that you will wear it without. Come one more step towards me. Could you please tuck that in? I'm going to start in my language. Ahaganna, mama etakota kien nang katandare, mage hirden kien nang hinta, hondata ahaganna. This story is about a weaver, a man who wove the most beautiful fabrics, the gold of sunsets and sunrises. He wove the beautiful blues and purples of birds' wings and butterflies' wings. He wove the red of love, the green of grass and leaves waving in the breeze. Every day when he wove his fabrics, everyone bought them because they were so beautiful. But every night when he went home to a small house on his own. He ate his rice, and through the open windows, he heard children laughing and playing and shouting for stories, parents talking to each other, grandparents giving words of wisdom. And every day he sold his fabric, and every night he dreamt. He dreamt of a woman with long brown hair, with shining brown eyes and pale skin. Every night she was there in his dreams, so he stepped forward, trying to touch her hand. But when he did, she faded away. So he got up the next morning and he looked for her. He went to the market, and there were the rambutans, there were the mangosteens, there was all the sweets, and there were the people shouting to sell, but she wasn't there. So he went into the paddy fields, and he saw the people planting paddy, but she wasn't there. He went into the forests, and there he saw grey talia waving trunks with mahouts sitting. He went to the sea, and he saw stilt fishermen fishing. But she was not there, until one day he saw footsteps, and he followed those footsteps. But she wasn't there. And they say he dreamt of her for 7 months. Until one day he found himself weaving brown hair, brown eyes, pale skin, and when he finished, there she was, in the cloth. If only the gods, they heard and they ran their hands over the fabric, and she stepped out. And this time, she didn't leave, and so he took that piece of fabric, he wove it around her once, this one, right around, tuck it in. He wrapped it round her twice again. Okay, stay there. And he pleated it 7 times for the 7 long months he had dreamt of her. 5, 6, 7. He wrapped it round her one more time. Thank you. And he took that last piece and placed it over her shoulder to fall to the floor. We call it sari wrapping and falls, but they got married. She wore it on their wedding day. And in Sri Lanka, our grandmother or our mother gives us our first sari. They wrap it round us, and someone tells the story of the weaver and how he married the woman of his dreams, so that we are inspired to remember that no matter how small or how big our dreams are, we should always live in the hope that one day they will come true. And so I wish you all good dreaming and hope for the future.